Hello students, now we will discuss about greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is a phenomenon that happens inside the greenhouses. What are greenhouses? Greenhouses are some rooms or house-like constructions that are meant for growing of the plants in winter season, and those rooms or houses are completely covered or made up of glass panels on the top, so that only light will be entered into the or inside to that of a greenhouse, but not the heat. After some time, after continuous radiations or continuous flow of light into the glass panel, after some time a little bit of warmness or less heat is generated inside the greenhouse, so that the plant will be obtaining sufficient or a required temperature for its growth. So first we will see what is meant by greenhouse. Greenhouse is a room or house that is meant to grow plants in winter season in cold regions So greenhouses are completely covered by glass panels. Because of using of these glass panels, so only light enters into the house but not heat. So this is the specialty of greenhouses. Now, what is meant by greenhouse effect? The phenomenon that is happening inside the greenhouses is called as greenhouse effect. So the phenomenon or the process or the method happening inside greenhouses is called greenhouse effect. Now, how can we relate this greenhouse effect with that of the heat generation in the earth and on the earth layers? Here, this type of phenomenon naturally occurs in earth, and instead of glass panels, we can consider atmospheric layers. This phenomenon naturally occurs on earth. Now, we can relate the total greenhouse as earth and the glass panels as atmospheric layers. So, we can consider the place where plants grow as earth and glass panels, atmospheric layers as glass panels. Now, what are atmospheric layers? Atmospheric layers, we have few names like, if this is the earth, on the earth, near to the earth, the first layer is troposphere. Next is stratosphere. Next is mesosphere. Next is thermosphere. Next is exosphere. So all these 5 types of layers are explained under single term, that is atmospheric layers. So whenever we are reading about the term atmospheric layers, it's better to recall the names of all these different layers, sub-layers in the atmospheric layers. The layer that is near to the earth, where biosphere exists is troposphere. Next is where ozone layer is existed, that is stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere and exosphere. So this is about just the introduction of greenhouse and its effect. We should get one idea that why earth has to be get heated by the sunlight or the heat that is generated from the sunlight. Basically, earth maintains a least temperature of 15 degrees centigrade, but all plants cannot grow at that temperatures, so that earth has to provide some of the heat for the growth of plants on it. Means not only for plants, for the existence of other types of biodiversity on the earth. So we will frame out some of the important points. Actually, earth maintains a least temperature of 15 degrees centigrade in normal conditions. But all plants cannot grow at that temperature. So, for the existence of biodiversity, heat or warmness has to be provided by earth, so that when light has come onto the earth layers, through the earth layers onto the earth, then a little bit of warmness or heat is generated. Earth emits heat in the form of infrared rays. Earth emits heat in form of infrared radiation. What happens if earth is not generating the heat? If means by this greenhouse effect like phenomenon, if earth does not generate heat, then its temperature will be falling to minus 18 degrees centigrade. This is not favorable for existence of almost all types of biodiversity. Next, another important point is, out of total solar radiation, only 1/4 of solar radiation is reflected back from the earth layers into the clouds and gases. Out of total solar radiation, only 1/4 of solar light is reflected back from earth to clouds and gases that are present in troposphere and stratosphere. Present in troposphere and stratosphere. Then, how much amount of solar light is heating the earth's surfaces? Half of solar radiation is heating the earth. Here we have used the term some of the gases that are present in troposphere and stratosphere. Examples for those gases can be carbon dioxide, methane. These both are present as the gases that are absorbing the heat or the light that is reflected from the earth. Another one is nitrous oxide, that is N2O. This is present very less amount. These both are main gases that absorb reflected heat, or reflected, we can say, infrared radiations. The gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides, which are present in the tropospheric level, they absorb the heat that is generated from the earth in the form of infrared radiations, and they will not emit this heat to go out of the troposphere or into stratosphere. This will again means push back the heat that is generated onto the earth layers. So that what happens, already earth is heated by little bit of light, that is by solar radiation. In addition to this, the heat that is pushed back by these carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide types of gases will again or reheat the earth layers or completely the earth. This condition is called as global warming. And these gases which are responsible for reheating of the earth are called as greenhouse gases. The gases like CO2, methane, nitrous oxide will absorb the infrared radiations and emit back that heat onto earth. So earth is again heated. As these gases are responsible for heating, means or creating the warmness, these are called as greenhouse gases. As these gases like CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide are reheating the earth. These are called as greenhouse gases. This increased heating of the earth creates global warming. This increased heat on earth or heating of earth causes global warming. It is estimated that in the past century, nearly 0.6 degrees of temperature is decreased in the earth. It was calculated that in past century, means 100 years, in the past 100 years or century, 0.6 degrees of temperature was increased in earth. Next, in the past 3 decades, earth layers or this global warming, it was responsible for an El Nino effect. There were many El Nino effects. What is this El Nino effect? Some of the sailors have observed that there was some increasing or changing or weakening of the currents that are present on the surfaces of the Pacific Ocean. So El Nino effect was observed by sailors. by sailors. What is this El Nino effect? El Nino effect is nothing but weakening of the outermost surface of the ocean water. So that what happens, water becomes more heat, and the cold water will be pushed towards the bottom layers of the ocean. Initially, in some of the areas, the air will be moved, that or air winds, which are also called as trade winds, they will be moving from east to west direction. This normally happens in climatic changes. But sometimes when this flow is being in process, then what happens? Suddenly, the outermost earth means layers of the Pacific Ocean waters, they will get heated, and the air winds will be moving now from west to east. When the same trade winds are being moved from west to east direction, then some of the wind currents will be moving from the equator region to the top north polar regions, and there will be more cold ice-like areas, Arctic and Antarctic regions. When these air winds are moved in the form of heat, they melt the ice, and so that what happens, it causes the submerging of the coastal regions. So these are mostly seen in the December season, in the winter seasons. So winter season is nothing but worldwide, it is Christmas season. El Nino generally means small baby. This total El Nino effect is weakening of outer water surfaces of Pacific Oceans. Now, we will see this El Nino effect. Generally, air winds, which are also called as trade winds. This is the normal climatic changes that are happening seasonally. Move from east to west. But later, when these winds move from west to east, some heat is diverted towards north direction and created heat, which led to melting of ice in polar regions. So this El Nino effect, which is causing the melting of ice in Antarctic regions, etc., and Arctic regions, etc., so it caused the submerging of the coastal areas. So when ice melts and water level increases, it leads to submerging of coastal regions. Mostly we can see this one when winds are moving from Asia to Peru direction.